All right. Should be going live. There we go. Welcome and welcome. How does the sun set on Flat Earth? So I was over on Mr. Sensible's channel. Basically, I really only have to say one thing, and people seem to disagree with it so much. And I kind of started it in the description here. I said, I will start. Nobody alive has ever observed the Earth rotating. We should all be able to agree on that. A lot of people say, what do you mean when you look up at the sky and you see the stars rotating? That's the Earth rotating. And I would argue that that's nonsensical. That's not sensible. That's actually looking up at the sky, seeing the sky rotating, inferring that it's the ground rotating. Okay? So, one thing at a time, because I invited people to come over here so we can talk about some of these things. So, Paid NASA Shill is here and has already brought up two things, and we'll talk about them. So, set up a Foucault pendulum. Okay. And a Foucault pendulum, how do you set up a Foucault pendulum? Do you have to have something like what holds the top of the pendulum? Can it be moving around, or does it have to be still for the pendulum to work? I'm just asking because I'm pretty sure that the roof of the building that is holding the motion, I don't know what you call that, that socket or whatever, the place where it's swinging, that can't be moving. No, I gotta say, Coffee House Theology says, want me to get the troll. No, don't get the troll. I invited people to come here so we can talk about these things because there's a lot of, ideas, okay? And this Foucault pendulum is one of these ideas, okay? A Foucault pendulum is something that swings, and apparently wherever you have it on the earth, it's gonna swing differently, which to me, that's a pendulum swinging. It's a lot like some people will bring up the argument, well, you can weigh something, near the North Pole, and then you can weigh it again on the same scale or whatever near the equator, and you'll get a different weight. And somehow that seems to a lot of people to be the Earth rotating. But I just have to remind you that weighing something on a scale, first of all, the scale, if the scale is going to be at all accurate, it has to be sitting on something still, okay? Do you get what I'm saying? All these ideas, they kind of go back on themselves. Like, if I say, well, we observe the Earth stationary, so I believe that it's stationary. A lot of the people in the other chat like that, they would say, well, if you're in a jet and you're moving 600 miles an hour, how can you have your drink just sitting on your tray and everything appears to be just stationary? Well, that's how jets fly. I mean, we got really nice jets. And when something is not accelerating or decelerating, if you have a shield around yourself, your own environment, then you wouldn't know. You wouldn't know the difference, right? But the observation that we all make is of a stationary Earth. That's my main thing that I would point out. So I'm not trying to bore you guys with the back screen. I'm gonna NASA or Paid NASA Shill. You're gonna have to slow down a little bit because we can only talk about one thing at a time. So the Foucault pendulum is just a pendulum. It's a pendulum swinging, and it doesn't say anything about the ground beneath it moving. And plus, you have to hang it from something that's not moving. Right? So the pendulum swings It makes no sense. The pendulum's going to swing, so, it's going to knock over whatever in a circle over 24 hours. Okay. So that's the ground beneath it spinning. Although its pivot point, like the point where that it's swinging from, is also supposedly in motion too, rotating. That just doesn't make sense because it's not rotating. Same thing with the scale, weighing something at different parts of the earth. The scale has to be sitting down on something still. So the observation is that it's stationary. So let me play a video about, I want to clear something up about what observations are and about what an inference is, okay? And if you have an inference that goes against your observation, that's not science to continue on with that inference. You'll see what I mean. Let me just find my program here. Sorry. Okay. This is only like a minute long video, so pay attention to what is said. Brian Borden, yes, this is Joe Hill. How are you doing? I haven't seen you for a while. Good to see you. Hope you're doing good. So, okay, here we go.
An observation. The ground is still. Observations can be used to prove facts using our senses. Example. The earth is not in motion because we all perceive and experience the ground still and not in motion. An inference. The ground is not still, but appears to be still because its motion is constant and is in motion, but we don't feel it. This is not science. Here is why. We already made an observation. We can use our senses to prove facts about our reality. Inferring something is the same as making an assumption, such as Earth rotation or motion. To reject observation and trade for inference is not science. Sorry, there is no globe.
Okay, so did you hear that last part, what I said? Not about the globe part, but before that. To reject observation and trade it for knowledge that you've gained from, prior knowledge that isn't observed, that's not science. No, paid NASA shill says because your senses are perfect and cannot be fooled. No, let me give you an example. Actually, it's in a video that I'm going to play where I was in a debate with Red's Rhetoric. And Red's brought up that he drives using his speedometer instead of just guessing how fast he's going. Okay, that's called an instrument that's more accurate than our senses. So, of course, you would use that. But you have to use your senses to look at the speedometer to use that instrument, right? We can't forget about that we perceive everything. Everything that we experience is with our senses. We wouldn't know we were here if we didn't have senses. Do you know? Yeah, let's not do the name calling. Thank you, Voynich. If these people are, I don't know. But yeah, let's just keep it friendly. I do not wear glasses. Well, I wear sunglasses sometimes. Loki Fish, welcome. Good to see you. So yeah, what's the next thing? Basically what I'm saying is that we observe the earth not in motion, right? That's the only way you ever see it. Look at the ground. It does not appear to be moving. Okay, but we live in the world. So let's pretend that we were outside of the world. Might we see something else? We might see that the stars are still and that the Earth was actually turning. It'd be the same thing, right? But the observation is that we aren't moving on the ground. That's the observation. The observation is that when we point our camera at the sky and we don't move our camera, that we get star trails in our camera. So we know that the stars are in motion. That's the only reason why I have motors on my telescope, so I can track the stars, because they're in motion. Otherwise, they move right out of the viewfinder because they're moving. So the observation, I understand that the idea of a globe, I understand that. So I don't think that it's a good idea to just be lazy and say, oh, the flat earthers don't understand that. They just don't get it. They can't figure it out. Because that's what I see a lot of the comments saying. And that's not true. In fact, if you want, I can explain to you the reason why there's not the reason why, but I can explain to you what the sky does over the earth as far as what motion, like if you're a certain place on the earth, you're going to see a different thing in the sky. You're going to see the stars moving in a different way than if you're in another part of the earth, or depending on where you look. If you look south, you're going to see the stars circling around an axis. Now, if you're in the north and you're looking south, you won't be able to see that axis. But if you're south and you look to the south, like if you're in the southern hemisphere and you look to the south, you're going to see the stars going clockwise around an axis. That clockwise motion you're seeing is the only motion. They do not switch directions. This is like a false thing that the anti-flat channels have been confused on. And I've talked to Craig about that, and I'll play a video about where I was in a debate with him explaining it to him. Because, okay, let's see here. Paid NASA Show says, do you have an equatorial mount on your telescope? I have one that I bought, and then I have one that I made. And all an equatorial mount is it just does a circle. And then you just point it at wherever you want it, and all you have to do is align it with the center axis of rotation. It's simple. The sky turns in a circle. Point the base of your telescope at the center of that circle, and it will follow. No, see, that Paid NASA Show says, welcome to the globe. That's something that you're not understanding. So I'm going to play a video for you right now. So please pay attention to what I say in this video, because we're going to go to Stellarium, which, of course, in your mind, I'm sure it's a globe-based program. It does work on the flat Earth, but what you're doing is you're interjecting a model into, like you're trying to get things that we don't observe in on some flat Earth model so that you can make claims about it being wrong. The sky does what it does. It says nothing about the surface of the Earth. Even though when you infer the idea that you're on a rotating sphere, then of course it would make sense, because that's what we were all taught. No, it's not to prove the flat Earth, Paid NASA Show. I see why they call you Paid NASA Show. You're not making sense. Hey, Marcus is here. What's up, Mark? Marcus says effed up sucks. But that's his normal thing. Liz the Iron Maiden and Zulu 1. Sorry, I haven't been saying hi to everyone. Thomas Morgan and Coffeehouse Theology and a bunch of other people. I'm sorry if I... Message Marcus got deleted right off the bat. Well, as long as you don't hide him, just don't hide him. That's all. Because Because Marcus, I was teasing Marcus over at, hey, Gary Wybenga's here. Cool. So, let's play this video. And there's a little comedy in at the beginning of it just to make it more fun. But I think it's simple. The sky does what it does. And if you're in the south, you're going to see a certain thing. If you're in the north, you can only be one place at a time. Okay? So when you go to, that's what we're going to do on Stellarium. We're going to go a few places and look at the sky. And I'll explain to the reason why people have the misunderstood idea that there's two different rotations in the sky. There's only one rotation. The stars all rotate in one direction. And if you understand what the sky does, Paid NASA Jill says an equatorial mount only works on a globe. You should check out some of my videos. I think I have a video titled An Equatorial Mount Only Works on a Globe. I'm serious. Because an equatorial, do you agree with me that an equatorial mount tracks the motion of the stars? I think you're going to say yes. So since the stars are in motion in the sky, and that's what an equatorial mount does, so that you can take long exposure photography, then why do you say that doesn't work on, it only works on the globe? Because it works right in my backyard. Do you get what I'm saying? The sky does what it does. It says nothing about the ground. It doesn't. Watch this video.
Again, this is Bob the Science Guy.
Oh, that's awesome. You have a hypothesis.
Science! If you're going to bring up science,
and
then we're going to talk about stationary Earth.
Then you
can't bring up science in this.
Why?
Are you serious?
Why can't I bring up science?
Because you deny the only observations you make. You have, if science won't reject the only observations that are made.
Oh.
We don't notice the movement of the Earth.
Oh my gosh.
Well, 7.8 billion people observe an Earth that doesn't move. It doesn't move beneath us.
To us, the Earth seems to sit still.
Look at the room you're in. It's not moving.
Back to today's video. The Earth is flat. It appears to be flat. So something is wrong here.
Yeah.
But 1.0 is, this only goes to like 0.999 because at 1.0, it's the top there. 1.0 is indefinitely far because the radius of the arc matches the radius of the Earth. So you can see indefinitely far.
I see. Yeah, like you'd see your own ass is what you're saying.
Yeah, if it were consistent and light.
Yeah, but
that far.
I've heard people say that. If the conditions were right, you could see your own butt from around the globe.
Oh, that's awesome.
Which is just hilarious.
Yeah,
but...
and conditions could never be like that.
So I am doing interviews if anyone is interested.
The people only see you small for us, so just a second. I'll make it.
No, that's
larger.
fine. That's fine. I just I've been up here for a while, and I frequent this station, and it's I actually have some information I'd like to share too about this station.
All right, let me
take your time. No rush, Michael.
It's all good. It's all good. Here we go. There it is. Everybody can see.
They can see me now?
Yeah.
I don't know if they can.
They can.
Really? Okay. So I just wanted to tell you, you know, the path of the ISS, like its trajectory.
Sure.
It's on the screen behind me. You see that?
Oh, yeah. Okay.
That screen's flat. Just saying. How's that?
Oh, that's awesome.
We're going to look at Stellarium, where I have Stellarium sitting there. And we are in Colombia. We are in Colombia. We're on the equator, or close to it. So I just want to explain what I have on the screen here so everybody understands. We're looking north from the equator, almost the equator. See that star right above the N? That is the center star that all the stars go around. The pole star, whatever you want to call it, Polaris. So if we go like this, and if we go forward in time, we're going to see the stars going counterclockwise around that North Star, right? Very simple. Counterclockwise rotation. Well, all these comments I get tell me, and Craig from Fight the Flat Earth told me, no, at the equator, they switch directions. Sorry about that. Okay, so see how Polaris is right about at the horizon? So we're about at the equator looking north. And that's what we see. We see that counterclockwise rotation. If we turn ourselves around, we're going to see very much the same thing, but the rotation is obviously going to appear to be the different direction because we're turning around.
Only this, I don't understand. You keep saying things that only work on a globe, and I don't understand how you don't see that they
I don't think that it only works
globe.
on a globe. I think there's a very good explanation of how it works over a flat Earth.
There isn't one, though.
What I'm saying is anywhere you go in the northern hemisphere, above the equator, or you're going to see the stars doing circles around Polaris. Would you agree? I mean, that's what you see. That's what I see.
Yeah.
Now, if you go to Australia, you're going to see the same thing, but you're going to be looking at the south center of rotation. But it's south. Like what I'm saying is,
again,
I made
which
a
is something
video.
that's only possible on a globe. This is what's blowing my mind here. You
Okay,
keep
tell me
saying
why
things
it's only
that
possible on a globe.
Because the Earth
Tell me
is flat,
why.
you couldn't have counter-rotating star trails.
Well, they're not counter-rotating. They're all
They appear
rotating
to
the
be
same
based
direction.
on the.
It's
If you look
because
up at the sky, they appear to rotate in counter-rotation in different ways. That's undeniable.
it's because you turned
And
around.
that would not. Yeah, but okay, that would mean that the flat Earth was inside out, though.
No.
Yeah.
No, let me explain. I think you can understand this. I think you can understand because I remember the last debate we had, or last time, or one of them, you had mentioned that at the equator that the stars switch directions, like the
Right.
direction of rotation switches, and that's not true. No matter where you are, if you're in the north, you're going to have the stars rising in the east and setting in the west, correct?
Yes.
And it's the same in the south. It's you turning around that makes them appear to be going a different direction. Well, I'm here to show you how simple it is of a misunderstanding. Okay, so we're just going to look at this again. We're going to go back to there, okay? So we're going to go forward in time. So like as time goes, the direction that time goes, and watch the stars going in a counter or anti-clockwise, right? Okay, so now we will simply turn around to the south and we will look. Now, going forward in time, just like time goes, we are seeing clockwise rotation. You see that? Are the stars going the same direction? Yes. Let me show you what I mean. Okay, let's look to the west. Okay, now as we I had to pause it. Paid NASA shill, just to inform you so you don't keep making false statements. Stellarium isn't based on a globe or a flat earth or anything. It's based on star maps. It's based on what the sky does over the earth from any given point on the earth. Has nothing to do with the shape of the part below. Okay, it is not based on a globe. It's of the sky. You could say it's based on a celestial sphere, but that's about all you could say, because that's what the sky appears to be above the earth. So just so you know. But you obviously don't have the capacity to pay attention to what I'm showing you in this video. People ask me, how can there be 2 points of rotation over the flat earth? That's impossible. It's explained right here. And how can they have opposite rotating hemispheres? They don't. That's a false idea. And I'm explaining that right now. Let me skip back here, okay? As we go forward in time, we're going to see the stars going down towards the horizon. Setting, right? Setting in the west. No matter if you're looking north, they're still setting in the west. Or if you're looking south, they're still setting in the west. Even though they're going, from your point of view, they're going different directions. They're going opposite direction of each other, but that's because you turned around.
Don't turn around.
We're gonna go around the world a little bit on Stellarium just so I can show this over and over again. Okay, going forward, clockwise, looking south, okay? Clockwise looking south. We turn around to the north. Counterclockwise, anti-clockwise, whatever you want to call it. Looking to the north. Setting in the west. We turn to the east. Rising in the east. Okay? We're at the equator in Colombia. So now, here's where we were. Right there in Colombia. Okay? So that's where we were there. Now we're going to go to where I live, which is in Minnesota at 45 degrees. And now we're going to look north again. Okay. Same thing. Anti-clockwise. Around the same star. But you notice the star's in a different position now. Remember it was right above the N before? When we were south farther? That's because how everything in the sky ever that's going away from you will appear to go down towards the horizon. As you go further away from it, it's going to get closer and closer to the horizon. Very much like a jet flying away from you. It's eventually going to run into the trees, and then you won't be able to see it anymore. This is very much the same of what Polaris is doing here. Is we're closer to Polaris now than we were in Colombia. Anti-clockwise, okay? Now we simply turn around to the south, and what do you expect for us to see? I expect us to see the same thing again. Clockwise is what I expect to see. There we go. Setting in the west, rising in the east. Okay, now let's go somewhere south. Let's go to Argentina. Let's go to Argentina. Okay, and we will use this location because that's further south. Alright, what do you expect to see? I expect to see the exact same thing. Anti-clockwise in the north, clockwise in the south. So here's the south is moving clockwise around a point right about here. There's not necessarily a bright star there, but there's a center point, right? There's an axis. There's a center of rotation, but it's clockwise. Now I simply turn around to the north and anti-clockwise, setting in the west, rising in the east. No matter where you are in the world, this is what you will experience in the sky. Okay, so Peyton Assershill says Stellarium uses the spherical Earth model. Question for you. What part of the Earth has anything to do with Stellarium? Just the direction you're looking. That's it. That's it. Has nothing to do with the ground. Has nothing to do with the shape of the Earth. It's a model of the sky in reality. And actually, you can use it to see what the stars do in the sky. Wow. Nothing to do with the globe, I promise. Because the sky and the ground aren't even attached to each other. They're like not even attached to each other. They're no way related to each other except that the sky is above the ground. They're not like connected, are they? Well, apparently they are on the globe. They're connected and rotating along with the Earth. Yeah, what a joke. See, that's the whole thing about inference. Okay, it's part of science. Like, I'm trying to think of an example. My example would be this. The observation I would make is that the Earth is still, and it never appears to move unless there's an earthquake or a landslide, or like a bomb goes off and the ground shakes from that. Otherwise the ground never moves. That's the observation. My inference is that the Earth is just a solid thing. That would be my inference. And it actually agrees with the observation, because it's just the observation is that it doesn't move. So that would be how an inference would be used in science. Prior knowledge, or I've never seen the Earth move, I've never felt it move, except for those things those exceptions. I've never had the Earth show me any sign that it is rotating. And the sky gives us the opposite. The sky actually shows us that the sky is rotating. So if we pay attention to those observations, we wouldn't make an inference that it's the opposite and that the sky is not rotating and that's just the ground rotating, because the observation is not the ground rotating. We don't observe the ground rotating. Okay? Now, a sunset on a flat Earth, how could that happen? It's simple. Actually, you know what? We're going to play a little bit of debate with, I guess, Craig, Fight the Flat Earth, and Red's Rhetoric, and me trying to talk some sense into those dudes. I have recently had the opportunity to be in some Flat Earth debates on YouTube and have gotten to know some of the arguments that the globe side has to offer more clearly. I hope that I can now offer some better explanation of some of the differences between both sides of the debate. I do see some things that need to be looked at closer to understand what the globe side is making claims about. In this video, I want to make some points about the stars, their rotation in the sky, and also some claims being used to debate that the Earth is a globe that I see to be untrue. So this video will be about equatorial mounts for telescopes, the North Star, and the southern center of rotation of the stars. The globe side of the debate has no problem acknowledging that from the Earth, the stars and sun and moon and sky appear to be moving over the Earth, turning in a perfect circle around the North Star Polaris. Another part of the debate is that if Earth is flat, they say that an equatorial mount would not work to track the lights in the sky, and that a flat Earth would require a mount that is using more than one axis of rotation. Here is Red's Rhetoric explaining this part of the debate on Fight the Flat Earth's channel. who was kind enough to invite me to debate there.
Okay. So basically the globe proof is going to be what it was last time. I'm going to start with an equatorial telescope mount. Okay. If you are trying to get long exposure shots of, nebulae or the stars or whatever, you want to use an equatorial mount. An equatorial mount is great because it corrects for field rotation by only having to rotate one axis. However, in order for that to work, you need to align that axis with the axis of the Earth. And guess what? The angle at which you need to align that axis is dependent on how far north you are or how far south you are. If you were to go all the way to the North Pole, you would have to stand the equatorial telescope mount's axis straight up. In order for it to work at the equator, you would have to lay it side to side so that the axis is running along the ground. Now, if you know the distance and the angle at which you need to turn, you would see that it actually gives you a really good value for not only the shape of the Earth, which is round, but also the size of the round Earth. If you were to model an equatorial telescope mount working on a globe, it works perfectly. It only has to rotate one axis in order to stay focused on stars. However, if you try to model that same equatorial telescope mount moving on a flat Earth to track any object in the sky, whether it's attached to a dome or not, that I might add, it will have to move both axes that telescope mount has available to it. It is impossible to keep anything in the view of that telescope while rotating only one axis. This is something that literally anyone can do if you have an equatorial telescope mount and if you're willing to travel.
Notice in the animation that Reds was playing that it showed the equatorial mounted telescope moving to the bottom of the globe to Antarctica. Is Antarctica an island like this animation shows? Well, let me say this. If Google Earth was accurate, and if Antarctica is a place as depicted on Google Earth and in Red's animation, then why does it look like this at the South Pole? If Antarctica was an actual island and there was an actual South Pole or a southern axis of rotation of the Earth, we would not be limited to sewn together images of this place. I live in Minnesota, so the equatorial mount has to be pointed at Polaris, which only makes sense, which is the center of the rotation of the sky. Where I live, it is about 45 degrees. If I was to travel north, Polaris would appear to get higher in the sky, and if I travel south, it would appear to get lower in the sky until I reached the equator, and it would be about at the horizon. I agree with Reds on these points, but I didn't think that I had to explain why Polaris is at different angles from different locations. If you roll a bowling ball on the ground, it will appear to go up towards the horizon until its angular size is too small or it goes behind something that blocks it. The sky is just the opposite way. If a jet is flying away from you, it will appear to go down towards the horizon until its angular size is too small or something blocks it. Nothing about this says anything about the radius of the Earth. That is a circular assumption that you're making. Next, I do use an equatorial mount with one axis pointed at Polaris. The stars do a circle around Polaris every day, every 24 hours. So this is just simple geometry. I can track any star in the night sky by pointing the base of my equatorial mount at Polaris. This is because anyone that can see Polaris can do the same. Here are star trails from Florida taken by Nathan Thompson. In Georgia, the star is always visible through this hole in the Georgia Guidestones. This is also by Nathan Thompson. And here are star trails taken from Minnesota by me. It works this way, anywhere you can see Polaris from. So you only need one axis. Reds was showing some footage of Astronomy Live's telescope on an equatorial mount following the stars to do a long exposure image. And it was only on one axis. Well, that's exactly what I do here in Minnesota. That is because geometrically, every star is doing a circle around Polaris. A circle is a shape consisting of all points in a plane that are at a given distance from a given point, which is the center. And in this real life application, we are using Polaris to be the center of the stars, and they are in motion around Polaris in a circle orbit. So with all the talk about the motion of the stars, why does Red say that the stars are not moving and that is the Earth that is moving? That's why I'm saying that it's circular. And the stars go in circles.
I have this thing, they're called standards, and unfortunately the Bible does not meet them.
And what about observations that you have a P1000? Take your P1000 and put it on the star trail thing and put it outside and tell me if the stars were moving or if your camera was moving.
Again, if we were to look at the sky on a merry-go-round, I would see the same exact effect.
But how about just in reality with your camera?
But in that
Forget
time,
the merry-go-round part.
No, I'm not going to forget the merry-go-round part because it's an example of what we are seeing. Just because the stars rotate around a celestial point, that doesn't mean we are still.
Okay, right, and that's an opinion.
No, that's a statement of fact. That's something that we can demonstrate by simply going to the park and finding a merry-go-round and testing it for ourselves.
Well, yeah, we can do a merry-go-round game, but we're not on a merry-go-round.
No,
you get what I'm saying? We're on the
exactly
Earth, and
like a merry-go-round.
Every perception that and sense that your body has tells you that it is completely stationary and solid as a rock, like it always has been. And what I'm not trying to argue with your point, because you have your gyroscope and you have the other things that you brought up. That your measurements.
Perception isn't perfect. Sensory perception is flawed. You make flawed judgments based on your perception constantly, so it is foolish to rely on them to that degree.
Okay, and then I'll be done with this not this conversation, but this part of the question or the conversation or whatever, by just saying this, that you're able to ignore the sky turning above your head because you have a concept idea that the ground is turning.
Every example that I gave included the sky turning. I'm not ignoring it. You're just not accepting my answer.
No, I'm accepting your answer. I'm not saying that you're wrong or something. I'm saying that you are able to ignore your own flawed perceptions in order to. So
because I have more accurate equipment I can rely on.
And
Absolutely.
That's actually exactly what I'm pointing out, is that you're relying on the equipment rather than your actual senses that you make.
I am not going to rely on I'm not going to rely on my senses when driving. I'm going to look at the speedometer.
Yeah, no, and that's more accurate. I agree. But when we're looking at the reason why I have this image playing behind me is because that's the point I'm making, is that anybody that is trying to say that this is not the stars turning, they're not paying attention to where they live. That's what I'm saying. We live on a place that has a sky above it turning. Everybody does. We all live here.
That is your assertion, and your assertion is based on a fundamentally flawed concept. The concept is deemed flawed, not by me, not by
so flawed,
not by Fight the Flat Earth or anybody. It's deemed demonstrably false by the measurements that we have been able to gather.
And I just would have to disagree with the measurements.
You can disagree with the measurements all you want. The point is that the measurements exist. The measurements exist. And so if you ask any reasonable person, we say, hey, we have a guy who hasn't done any measurements, but trusts his
No,
own
I'm doing a
perception,
measurement
which he
right now.
agrees is flawed. And we have
This
this
is a
other
measurement.
guy who doesn't go that far, but trusts the tools and equipment that are used in planes and stuff like that. Who are you going
Reds.
to believe?
Reds. This is a measurement or an observation. Okay? It's a simple one. The sky's turning above my camera. Simple.
It's an observation that doesn't prove your point, though.
Well, it says what I'm trying to say about the sky
No,
moving and
it
the
falls
Earth
short.
being stationary.
No, it
That's
falls
fine.
short of what you want it to. What you want it to prove, and what it's actually showing are two different things. What you're trying
In your
to say,
opinion.
no, in actual
Yeah.
demonstrable reality. You
What is
don't-
this? What is this doing in the background? That's the point I'm making. The sky's turning in the image that my camera takes, and I have side reel motors on my telescope because the sky's turning, and my telescope is set on the ground that's not turning. That's
No.
the whole point I'm making.
The sky could be stationary, and the Earth could be turning with your camera still attached to the Earth, and it would still
Yeah.
make that view.
But why would you choose that if the reality is that the camera's not moving? Like, I mean,
Because
if
in
you
reality,
go put
we
something
have
in the
measurements to
backyard
show that
and
the
if
camera
you-
is moving. In reality, we have measurements to show that the camera is moving, and I choose not to ignore parts of reality that are inconvenient to the.
you're gonna
to the position
ignore
I'm in.
you're gonna ignore the
15
sky
degree
turning
crown
above your
drift.
camera just so that you can say, oh, I'm intellectually have better information than that. So,
15
and you're
Not,
saying
not
it's a
once did I
possibility.
ignore your image. Not
well,
once
you're
did I-
able to say that you don't live on the earth or what? I don't get it.
No, I didn't. I'm not. Now you're just putting words in my mouth. I said your image does not demonstrate what you want it to demonstrate. You're saying if you're saying I'm ignoring your image, then I'm saying you're ignoring the physical the physical measurements that we have done in reality that you yourself occupy that shows that we are the ones actually rotating, not the sky.
And I don't think that those are precise ways to measure certain things.
You have a better
Yeah.
way of doing it? I'm all ears.
Sorry,
Yeah,
it's
I'm
not
sitting.
it's not a
I'm
precise
sitting in this
way,
room
did
right
you
now
say?
that's not moving. That's the whole point I'm making. The sky's
That's not a
turning above
measurement.
my house right now.
Just-
There's
not a
stars.
measurement.
They are moving above
Um,
my house right now.
I'm
So
sorry,
basically
but I
your-
kind of have
your
to show what a
approach-
measurement is, right?
Wait. So your approach to the ring laser gyro, the weighted scales, the pendulum is look at this video and take my word for it. Got it.
Well, it's not my word for it. It's your
No,
word.
that
It's
because you're giving
everybody's
me
word.
nothing else.
No, it's everybody's word for it. Everybody knows that stars move. The constellations move in the night sky. Everybody knows that.
Or
So it's
the
not my
Earth could
word.
be
It's something
rotating.
that we observe.
Or the
everybody
Earth could be
observes it.
rotating.
What's that?
Or the Earth could be rotating.
No, I agree. It could be. It could be rotating, or it could be the sky rotating. And
So what
point I'm
so
making-
what are we even talking about here then?
the point I'm making is that we live on the Earth, and we've taken in somehow we try to pretend that we're up there looking down on the Earth, and we can see all this solar system and all this stuff when we don't see the planets orbiting the sun. We don't see that. We see the sun going over our heads every day and the moon going over our heads every day, and we see the planets doing retrograde motion up in the sky. Red says that the Earth is rotating and the sky is stationary. Then he says that the rotation of the sky proves something about the shape of the Earth because a kind of telescope mount I use all the time won't be able to work on a flat Earth to track the stars. Then he shows a video from Astronomy Live of a scope on an equatorial mount with one axis tracking the motion of the stars. I do it all the time, and it's my favorite type of mount to track stars with. Only one axis of rotation. One motor. Which again, why does Reds think I would need a motor on my telescope if the sky is stationary. Earth is not moving at all, and everyone living on it witnesses and observes this every day. It shouldn't even be a debate. The idea that there's a solar system is exactly what I just said. It's an idea. It only exists in our minds. In reality, we see the lights in the sky, sun, moon, stars, planets, and now the ISS, and we see them moving over the face of the earth, up in the sky above our heads. And everything I said in this video about the North Star and the equatorial mount and one axis and how it works just fine applies exactly the same way in the south. But the center of rotation will have to be south and the opposite direction because you'll be facing the opposite direction to see the center of rotation. The North Star will be too far away and hidden by the horizon. So why are we even having this debate, this conversation about these things? Why? It's not because it's like something that we can know anyway. I like what Thomas Morgan put in the chat. Jeremiah 31 verse 37, thus saith the Lord, if heaven above can be measured, and the foundations of the earth searched out beneath, I will also cast off all the seed of Israel for all that they have done. And actually that reminds me of Enoch 93 verse 11, which I'm going to open up really quick and read to you. Oops. Yeah, because it's along the same lines. We don't know these things. We can't measure these things. Let me read this to you. This is starting 93 verse 11. For who is there of all the children of men that is able to hear the voice of the Holy One without being troubled? And who can think his thoughts? And who is there that can behold all the works of heaven? And how should there be one who could behold the heaven? And who is there that could understand the things of heaven, and see a soul or a spirit, and could tell thereof, or ascend and see all their ends, and think them, or do like them? And who is there of all men that could know what is the breadth and the length of the earth, and to whom has been shown the measure of all them? Or is there anyone who could discern the length of the heaven, and how great is its height, and upon what it is founded? And how great is the number of the stars, and where all the luminaries rest? Hey, welcome, Isabella. I thought you were a moderator here. Good to see you. So that's the reason why we're having this conversation. When we were, just put yourself back in like elementary school, and there was the idea that the teacher knew the answers when it came to all these things. That's just something that we know. It's the earth. We know about it. We know all these things. So we had the idea that we knew all these things. Do you know what I mean? Just ask the teacher, or just ask the scientist, just ask the whoever. The professor. Don't ask Professor Dave though. I don't know, that dude's weird. I don't think he's a professor. I have my doubts. So I was going to play the other video about how the sun sets on flat Earth. I think it sort of was, parts of it were already played, but I just want to show you this footage of what we can get a little bit of an idea of other ways that we can see the sunset other than just going over a curve, because we've shown with optics that really there's no curve. That's a tough one for the globe. I mean, you can look at it and say, oh no, that looks like a curve. You can say that. There's things that would lead someone to believe that it's a curve. But when you look into it and do the math, something else happening.
They tell us that the sun moves 15 degrees per hour in our sky above the Earth. I have noticed that this is not true. For a good part of the day this is true, but at sunset, the sun stops changing position at that 15 degrees and it slows down when it comes close to making apparent contact with the horizon. This is because the sun is a light in the sky that is limited by atmosphere and the things on the ground between you and the sun. The light from the sun can be blocked by anything that is taller than you and between you and the sun. Your neighbor's fence can block the sun when the angle to the sun is low and close to the horizon and their fence is only 8 feet tall. Have you ever seen the sun disappear from the bottom side first while the sun is still above the horizon? Take a look at this footage. The light from the sun is being blocked out by the low elevation air that is most dense down on the ground where we usually see the sun setting from. So when we go above that thick low elevation air, we can see that it is just being blocked out and eventually becoming not visible through the thick air. Don't listen to people that say the sun would never set on a flat Earth. Because the sun does appear to set on flat Earth. When they say that, they are thinking of a graph on paper, which does not represent reality in any way. Drawing a diagram and pretending that your diagram is representing reality is just a way to avoid the truth. Go out and observe the sun and its light, and pay attention to your surroundings. You will soon realize that the Earth is most certainly stationary and the sun is moving over the flat Earth. Thank you for watching.
That's my other channel. Maybe you could call it a backup channel. Flatter Every Day. Sometimes I have a link for it at the end of my videos. Not every video, though. Dwayne Glower says, forgive my ignorance. Does Flat Earth suggest that we would be the center of the universe? Could be another reason they invented the globe. Well, here's my take on it. That, you know, I don't know if there is a universe as far as like when I look up at the night sky and say I look at the planets or something, I don't see them as something that's a certain distance away, like light years, like that idea. I see it more as they are out of reach. They're like above the earth, and they're of the sky of the earth. Do you know what I mean? So the stars and the sun and the moon, they were made for the earth, and they stay above the earth. Do you know what I'm saying? So the idea of the solar system is that the earth is just a small part of this huge place. I don't believe that's at all real. I think that when we look up there, the idea that like going to space, like when they go into orbit or go into the solar system or go to the moon, what they're doing is, I believe, I'm just being straight up, I believe that they clearly were given a key, and let's look at that once. Let me bring you over to the desktop. Let's look at that. Let's see. We're going to look at Luke 24 in a little bit. But let's see. Where's that? In Revelation 8 or 9. We'll go to 7 here just because I have it and on there. Let's see. See, this whole debate, what do we got, an error here? Uh-oh. Hopefully everything's working. Hopefully. Loki Fish says, here's a gift for you that proves flat Earth. Polaris from near the equator. Oh, that's a formula. Yeah, and see, I don't see why they would say that wouldn't work. There's 69 miles per degree or whatever. It's the same as like when I drove from Minnesota to Florida, and I was paying attention to where the moon was. And actually on the way back, I think is when I noticed it the most, because I was facing north driving back. So it would have been on the way down. Anyway, I watched the moon. Just 2 days of driving, and the moon totally changed position in the sky. Like from it, when I went, it was like I went closer to it, and then I went further away from it. Polaris does the same thing. Every star in the sky does the same thing. If you consider curvature of the Earth to be the cause, you're going to get a certain number. Or if you consider that you're going further away from something and it goes towards the horizon as you go further away from it, I'm guessing that Loki Fish is given that's what that formula is there. Which I'm trying to make sense of it, but I'm not a mathematician. Thank you, Thomas Morgan. Yeah, and I don't think we need corrections. Good point. Frank F.E. says the moon is cheese. That's actually probably a valid theory. You never know. I never took a bite of it. Okay. Revelation 8. I don't know why I got sidetracked there. Okay. So why are all this flat earth stuff, why are people talking about this? And why is it even a subject that's important? Well, it's important because we've been raised and you know, we've been born and raised into a society that was mistaken. And they weren't mistaken on purpose. Okay? They believed everything that they believed, or they do believe everything that they believe. But what I've learned is that it was all wrong. And we can prove it. But simple observations like the Earth being stationary, that's a big one. Like that one just, to me, you can have a debate with someone, and while you're debating them, you can just point out that you're right. Like if you say, yeah, the earth is not moving, it's not rotating, nobody's observing it being rotating, you can just, every few seconds if you want, you can just prove that you're right by just saying, look at the floor, see, notice it's not moving. That's the observation you're making. It's hard to argue with that. I mean, if you're talking to someone, you point at the ground and be like, why would you think that that's rotating? Because really, why would you think that it's rotating? So that's a big one for me. That's a big one for me. That's undeniable. Everyone observes it their entire life, like every second that you're alive. I mean, the few people that have, or the people that have experienced an earthquake, that was the first moment that the earth ever moved beneath their feet, and I'm sure it's terrifying. And inferring that, like just adding to the story, oh, well, on a globe that you're spinning at a constant speed, you wouldn't feel it. I don't care. So if I was on a candy cane hanging from my boots, I wouldn't feel it either. So we must live on a candy cane hanging from our boots, right? Do you get what I'm saying? You can add whatever you want to the story, but the point is that the observation is that it doesn't ever move. And everybody is a witness of that. So that's one thing I saw in the chat. I think it was Thomas Morgan was saying to Deb Woods, because she was saying how she believes the Bible over science, or any kind of whatever people are calling science these days. It's not science, it's like fake science. But Thomas, I think, said that's because Jesus made you a witness of his marvelous light. And that's so true. And actually, that's one of the things that Jesus offers to everyone, is he says he's at the door waiting for you to open it. So however you're going to open that door, I did it right in here in the Bible. That's how you open that door. Start reading what Jesus says. The book of Revelation is his testimony from heaven. The Son of God gave us his testimony. But like the Gospels, read everything he says in there. It has relevance today to you. That's how I got to know him. But why is this a debate? That's where I'm going with this. Okay, these angels. Let's see, where was it? Okay. Some of you might recognize these first 4 trumpets, okay? This is in Revelation 8, verse 10. Or actually, verse 8. And the second angel sounded, and as it were a great mountain burning with fire was cast into the sea, and a third part of the sea became blood. And a third part of the creatures which were in the sea and had life died, and the third part of the ships were destroyed. What kind of ships? Thomas, what kind of ships do you think they're talking about there? Like sailing vessels or like spaceships? And the third angel sounded, and there fell a great star from heaven, burning as it were a lamp. And it fell upon the third part of the rivers and upon the fountains of waters, and the name of the star is called Wormwood. And the third part of the waters became wormwood, and many men died of the waters because they were made bitter. And the fourth angel sounded, and the third part of the sun was smitten, and the third part of the moon, and the third part of the stars. So as a third part of them was darkened, and the day shone not for a third part of it, and the night likewise. So then they get a warning about the next 3 angels. But what I wanted to point out was this part where there's this key given, a key to the bottomless pit. Keep in mind that everything in the solar system is falling perpetually. That's what science says. Everything in the solar system is falling. It's in a state of free fall, 0G, around something else. Around a bigger body, okay? And the 5th angel sounded, and I saw a star fall from heaven, unto the earth, and to him was given the key of the bottomless pit. And he opened the bottomless pit, and there arose a smoke out of the pit. Okay, now let me go down here where we learn a little bit more about this bottomless pit. Verse 11, and they had a king over them, which is the angel of the bottomless pit, whose name in Hebrew tongue is Abaddon, but in the Greek tongue hath his name Apollyon. Apollo. Do you guys remember Apollo 11? Think about that. Apollo 11. That's when they went to the moon. That's the first time man walked on the moon, was at Apollo missions. It's the first time they went to the moon. So, one thing I would have to say, you know that story in Revelation, the same book. That's happening now, I think. And I think that what they're doing is they have this key. They have figured out how to go sideways to the sides of the pit. That's what it says in Isaiah 14 verse 9. Or I'm sorry, not 14 verse 9. 14 verse 13 or 14. That Lucifer said he wants to ascend into heaven and exalt his throne above the stars of God, but that he'd be brought down to hell, to the sides of the pit. It's a trick. It is a trick. So, yeah, maybe they landed on the moon, but they didn't. They went into darkness to do it. They went into outer darkness to do it. So just think about that. Oh, dnodal.org. I don't know does he still have a website up or what? Because I think his channel, I don't know if his YouTube channel's around anymore. Maybe he got his YouTube channel, whatever, deleted or something. A lot of channels have been deleted over time, you know. If you talk about the vaccination, let me just say some words. I just want to say some words. Booster shot. Anti-vaxxers. Masks. Anti-maskers. Poison. I'm just saying words, that's all. Mark of the Beast. Pharmakia. Sorcery. Nations deceived. Wait a minute. I'm just saying words, that's all. Just words. Yeah, I shouldn't go any further with my words. I was going to make a list one time and just rattle them off. Just to say them, you know? Just to say them. Like infection or vaccination or COVID-19. You know what I mean? Oh, hey, I got some jokes. My dad told me these, okay? 2 of them. Okay, so if you're going to sell your car, you might visit the Kelley Blue Book, right? Here, let me do something before I forget. I just want to show you that part in Revelation 3. Okay, here's my jokes, though. Okay. You go and you look at the Kelley Blue Book to see what your car's worth, and it asks you a bunch of questions. And now they just added a question that when you go to, see what your car's worth. And that question is, how much gas is in the tank? So if you got that one, you got it. If you didn't, you didn't. What was the other one? The other one was pretty good. It was better. The other one was better. I'll think of it. I just lost it now. Oh yeah. So I went into the gas station to get gas. I pulled up to the pump and it said prepay only. So I went into the store to prepay, and I walked up to the teller, and I said, "How can I help you?" I said, I needed to prepay for some gasoline. And she sat down, and she said, "How do we want to finance this?" So there you go. Brum, bum. Yaz Child says, "Does your dad believe biblical cosmos?" Yeah, no. Well, I can't say what other people believe, but I think it's interesting to watch this happen. And if you guys know what I mean when I say watch this happen, I'm talking about the last 6 or 7 years. Just the things that I've seen from my point of view or whatever. I've seen a lot of people react in a like hasty way or whatever. But then a lot of those people seem to just be listening to what people say maybe and not really commenting much about it or whatever. But I think that I also think that that's written in the Bible, that he will reprove the world of sin. I don't think that happens in one day. So I think I see that happening. When the Spirit comes, he will reprove the world of sin and of righteousness and of judgment. Of sin because they believe not on me. That's some serious words that Jesus said. He's talking about the future. When he sends the Spirit, he's going to reprove the world of sin. Thomas says, "Don't quit your day job, Joe." I won't. Trust me. Dwayne Glower says, "Man, I got robbed at the gas station. I barely got out of there with a tank of gas." It is kind of funny, though. Like, I don't know what was gas or diesel, I guess is what I buy, but I think it was like $3 or something, $3.50 or something, and then it just went up to $5. But it just seems like such a huge amount of difference. Maybe it's that I'm driving a lot more. I don't know. So in this book of Revelation, chapter 3, this is awesome right here. This is something that I can vouch, or I can tell you that I know that these words are true. And so what you do with them is up to you, but I know that they're true. Look at where it says in verse 17. "Because thou sayest, I am rich and increased with goods, and have need of nothing, and knowest not that thou art wretched and miserable and poor and blind and naked. I counsel thee to buy of me gold tried in the fire, that thou mayest be rich, and white raiment, that thou mayest be clothed, and that the shame of thy nakedness do not appear. And anoint thine eyes with eye salve, that thou mayest see." I'm telling you that these words are true, and that's my experience with them. That's my testimony. That's my that's what happened in my life. Okay, he said, "And anoint thine eyes with eye salve, that thou mayest see. As many as I love, I rebuke and chasten. Be zealous, therefore, and repent." And repent, what does that mean? To me, that means to turn away and don't look back. Like turn around. Like, I would say, if I could give myself advice, like from the future back to like 5 years ago, I would say, turn around and don't look back. There's nothing to look back to. Turn around. Just turn around and just go that way. Just trust in God and just turn around. And he'll show you everything you need to know. And that's what he's saying here. "Behold, I stand at the door and knock. If any man hear my voice and open the door, I will come into him and will sup with him, and he with me. To him that overcometh will I grant to sit with me in my throne, even as I also overcame and am set down with my Father in his throne." So that tells me two things. That tells me that God is in his throne in heaven, and that Jesus is sitting in that same throne of his own, like with his, like, I don't know if there's two thrones. I don't know what you call it. I'm not trying to be like too specific here. But he's saying he overcame and he sat down with his Father in his throne. And he's telling them that overcome, you can do the same thing. I'll grant you to sit with me in my throne. So, what I say about that is that's how you, if you open the door, it can change how you see. It can change how you see the world. It can change a lot of things. So, there you go. Luke 24. I think we're in a special time where, look at what this is titled here. This is Luke 24. Look where it says or the title here, Jesus opens the meaning of scriptures. So, let's see here. We'll go up a little ways. He explains prophecies to them. So, I'll just read this. And behold, two of them went that same day to a village called Emmaus, which was from Jerusalem about 60 furlongs. And they talked together of all these things which had happened. This was right after Jesus was crucified, like the third day after. And they talked together of all these things which had happened. And it came to pass that while they communed together and reasoned, Jesus himself drew near and went with them. But their eyes were holden that they should not know him. So they didn't recognize him. And he said unto them, what manner of communications are these that ye have one to another as ye walk, and are sad? And one of them, whose name was Cleopas, answering, said unto him, art thou only a stranger in Jerusalem, and hast not known the things which are come to pass there in these days? And he said unto them, what things? And they said unto him, concerning Jesus of Nazareth, which was a prophet, mighty in deed and word before God and all the people, and how the chief priests and our rulers delivered him to be condemned to death, and have crucified him. But we trusted that it had been he which should have redeemed Israel, and beside all this, today's the third day since these things were done. Yea, and certain women also of our company made us astonished, which were early at the sepulchre. That's where he was buried. That's where, like, the tomb that he was put in. And they found not his body. They came, saying that they had also seen a vision of angels, which said that he was alive. And certain of them which were with us went to the sepulchre, and found it even so as the women had said, but him they saw not. Then he said unto them, O fools, and slow of heart to believe all that the prophets have spoken. Ought not Christ to have suffered these things, and to enter into his glory? And beginning at Moses and all the prophets, he expounded, look at this, he expounded unto them in all the scriptures the things concerning himself. So he went along with them and explained where he was in the scriptures. Like if you went to the book of Isaiah, seems to mention Jesus a lot, and or Zechariah. Let me give you an example in Zechariah, just because it's a good one. It's actually talking about this part in Luke 24, actually, is kind of what it's talking about in Zechariah. What is that? In Zechariah 12, I think. And it's like so clear that we'll look at it. My computer's a little slow, but at least it's working, right? Is it verse 12 or something? Oh, verse 10. Let's see. And I will pour upon the house of David and upon the inhabitants of Jerusalem the spirit of grace and of supplications, and they shall look upon me whom they have pierced, and they shall mourn for him as one mourneth for his only son, and shall be in bitterness for him as one is in bitterness for his firstborn. In that day there shall be a great mourning in Jerusalem, as the mourning of Hadadrimmon in the valley of Megiddon. And the land shall mourn, every family apart, the family of the house of David apart, and their wives apart, and the family of the house of Nathan apart, and their wives apart, and the family of the house of Levi apart, and their wives apart, and the family of Shimei apart, and their wives apart. All the families that remain, every family apart, their wives apart. Not sure what that means. But, so he explained to them, about, like, I almost guarantee it. I wasn't there, obviously, but I almost guarantee that he read that. He went over that with them and said, "Do you guys remember when I was pierced? How did Isaiah know that?" So he went over those things with them. And it says, and beginning at Moses and all the prophets, he expounded unto them in all the scriptures the things concerning himself. So that's something that, like, those guys were pretty lucky. Who was it? It was, I forgot their names. Or, Cleopas. I don't remember if we caught the other one's name. Cleopas is a pretty lucky guy. Pretty fortunate to be able to experience that. And they drew nigh unto the village whither they went, and he made as though he would have gone further, but they constrained him, saying, Abide with us, for it is toward evening, and the day is far spent. And he went in to tarry with them. And it came to pass, as he sat at meat with them, he took bread and blessed it, and brake and gave to them. And their eyes were opened, and they knew him. And he vanished out of their sight. And they said one to another, Did not our heart burn within us while he talked with us by the way, and while he opened to us the scriptures? And so then they knew that he was raised from the dead, you guys. And he had a body that was alive. He was alive. So they, to me, that's just powerful because death didn't stop him at all. He actually, he holds the keys to hell or death and hell. So that's why we know some of these things. That's why we understand these things. It's because he is making us able to comprehend these things. Thomas Morgan, good question, says, Hey, Joe, you ever done any masonry work, or do they build with blocks and mud up there in Minnesota? They do both. They do poured foundations, like for houses, they do poured ones, and then they do block ones. Mine is block. I didn't do it, though. I've never laid block. I'm not tough like you, Thomas. Isabella says, why would anyone want to be anywhere or with anyone else? I'm not sure what you mean. Oh, yeah. Okay. You were talking about in Luke 24. Yeah. Like what? And you know what is awesome about what you just reminded me of? In Revelation, where is that? It says that they will lie down with him, and I can't remember. It's also in Isaiah, I think. Isaiah 49 or something. I don't know. I'm probably going to wind up the stream. But yeah, that exactly. Why would anyone want to be anywhere or with anyone? Like, that's how I feel. Yes, I agree, Thomas. So I was at a job today, and I just got to share this cool story. So I was there and working, and I was just pretty much done. And when I was getting towards the end of getting done, there was a delivery truck that came full of millwork, all the doors and all the trim and everything for the house. And they backed up, and as they were unloading or whatever, one of the guys says, "Praise Jesus. What a beautiful day," or whatever. And I was like, "Oh, cool." Cause like, you don't see that. You don't see people being like basically praising God. You just don't see that where I work, you know? And so that was like really encouraging to me. And then, a little later on, what I was just about to leave, I'm loading up or whatever. And I met the guy's name's Joseph too. Is the same name. And we talked a little bit, and it was just really cool to meet someone that, here's what I got. He was happy. I'm like, man, more people need to be that way. So that he was really cool. And so who knows, maybe he'll watch this. I gave him my YouTube channel, but, so I think that it just reminds me that we need to be like that to other people more often. Maybe I'm not like that enough, but just to, like when I said, "You guys have a good day, we'll see you later." He was like, "God bless you, man." It just to be like not scared to encourage other people that way, you know? So anyway, let's see if I might have one short video that I can play before we go. Let's see. It's about boats sailing away. It's a short one. And then that's it. Then we're out of here. So you guys all have a good day. And thank you for stopping by and having a chat.
Why do boats disappear from the bottom side first as they sail away? Most people say it is because of curvature. This is not true. Water never takes a curved shape at its surface. Waves, swell, tides, and the general movement of the water causes the surface to be many different shapes when in motion. But when a body of water is at rest, the surface of that body is flat and as a mirror is. If we are looking at a boat that is near the shore, we can see waves bouncing against the bottom of the boat. What happens if the boat shrinks in angular size, but the waves close to the shore stay the same size? As the boat sails away, it will be obscured by the waves that are closer. This causes the illusion that the boat is going down. But it is just sailing away on the flat surface of the water. We were all taught to think about these things only one way. Open your mind to understanding it another way. There is truth to find that is different than what we all have believed. Thank you for watching.